Recording. Okay. Okay, good afternoon, class. Today we formally start our lessons. Last meeting naman may mga onting ano na tayo doon. Onting solving na, di ba? Yung parang di tayo mabudol sa mga charger natin. Okay, so today, topic natin would be resistive network. So we start from the basics. Gawa tayo ng mga... Okay, bonus. May nagbukas ng camera. De La Cruz. May plus ka. Sulat lang kita. Wait lang. Okay, may kausap ako. Yan. Okay, si Bidal din. Yan. Maayos, may kausap ako. So, mamaya na ulit ako magbibigay na. Ano ba yung lahat kayo nagbukas? Parang ewan. Hindi, okay lang. Anti lang nagbukas. Sige. Sulat ko muna. Para tayo magkalimutan sa mga grades nyo. Good mood ako today. Magpapamigay ako ng maraming bonus. Kasi papahirapan ko kayo sa exam. Wait lang sinusulat ko yung pangalan niya para... Yung tawag dito, yung groupings di pa final kasi hindi pa nakapag-reply yung iba. I mean, may kinontak ako mga tao for the leadership roles. Then, hindi pa sila nakapag-reply, so hindi pa kompleto yung mga leaders. Lahat ba kayo naka-on cam? Okay, hindi. Baka sayang effort ko dito. Okay. Yan, okay na. Nanood ko na lahat. Ayan, ayos pala. May kausap ako. Ano yung mo, virtual background mo, PJ? Oo, ang ba yun? Anyway. Continuing. Sige, start tayo with the resistive networks. Sunbears. Okay. Siyempre, ito yung mga alam na natin mula sa Physics 72, Physics 107, I think. Without parang medyo alam na natin itong mga bagay-bagay natin ngayon. Okay. So, as usual, si Kirchhoff pag-uusapan natin. Okay? Kirchhoff's current tsaka voltage law. So, start tayo. KCL. Flowing out of any node in a circuit must equal the current flowing in. Makes sense, di ba? Lahat ng papasok dapat lumabas. Okay, kung gusto mo mas math na expression, that would be the algebraic sum ng lahat ng branch currents flowing into any node must be zero. Okay, so ano ba yung mga node na yan? Okay, kung wari meron kang voltage supply, meron kang something like this. Resistor yan, na pangit lang ako mag-drawing. Okay. So, yung itong mga to, tinatawag natin silang node. Yan. Pwede mo silang tawagin nodes. And then, all yung mga nakasangay sa kanya would be called branches. Di ba? Intuitive naman. Okay? Branches yung mga yan. Yung mga nagdidikit sa mga nodes at sa mga terminals ng ng mga element mo. Okay? Okay. So, ayan. Siyempre, try natin, di ba? Ano ba yung mga example nitong KCL? Okay. Pangalanan natin to na I1. Capital I na lang gagamitin ko. Nababad trip ako sa letter I kasi imaginary number. Tapos parang iba yung pinag-uusapan natin. Medyo nakakalito. Kasi sa libro nyo, makikita nyo laging ginagamit yung ganitong symbol I. Pero ayaw natin yun. Okay, kuwari ganito. Downward na lang ito. I call this I2 and then I3. Okay. So, yung pagde-denote ko ng direction ng current, that would be my preference. I could point it all inward into this node or outward all of that node. Basta magiging consistent ka sa pagsulat mo. Okay, so paano ba natin to isusulat in terms of KCL? Ako, I prefer doing it like this. Lalagay ko lahat ng incoming sa left side, then on the right-hand side, I would put all of the outgoing current. Okay? So, for me, as in ginagawa ko dito, I1 must be equal to lahat ng palabas. I2 plus I3. Okay? Okay. So, yung iba, sanay sila sa ganito. The sum of all currents must be 0. Now, you have to be consistent lang kung anong tatawagin mo negative, anong tatawagin mo positive. If you want na lahat ng papasok would be negative, then you call it like this, negative 1, and negative I1 plus I2 kasi outward sila, kaya positive. I3 must be 0. Okay, is this the same kanina? Yes, lipat mo lang tong I1 sa kabila, makukuha mo na rin to. Okay? And then if your preference is calling the negative yung papalabas, then I1 minus I2 minus I3 must be equal to 0. Okay? So lipat mo lang tong dalawang I2 at I3 sa kabila, makukuha mo rin to. Or ito, di ba? Multiply mo lang to ng negative sign, ayun na rin yun, di ba? So preference lang talaga ito. You just have to be consistent sa mga ginagawa mo. Okay? Siyempre, pag ginawa mo na yung ganito sa isang node, dapat sa lahat ng node, na rin yung gagawin mo. Okay, so kuwari, may mga KCL na hindi useful. Okay, let's try to call this I4. Obvious naman, di ba, nadadaan si I2. I2 must be equal to I4. Diba? Obvious naman yan. So, pwede mo pang gawin, pahirapan mo sarili mo. You call this I5, papalabas. Tapos, papalabas din, I6. I6. You know that I2 must be equal to the negative of I5 and so on and so forth. Nasa isang linya ka lang, pero dadagdagan mo pa ibang ano mo. Hindi na to useful, no? Okay, hindi na to useful to mga to. So, titingnan mo kung ano yung makakapagbigay sa'yo ng mga independent variables. Siyempre, learning is easier when you throw yourself into the fire. So, try tayo ng mga examples. Diba? Okay. So, ayan. Kung may ganitong may some arbitrary circuit tayo, tapos tinitignan lang natin yung node na ito. Okay, so this is very easy. I just do it on my way. Lahat ng papasok would be 2 plus 3 plus 6 must be equal to 12 plus I. Tama. Diba? Kasi papalabas si I. So, now I have to solve for I. Then this would be 6 plus 3 plus 2, 11. Lipat ko si 12. Equal to I. I must be negative 1 ampere. Okay, so don't forget the units. Negative 1 ampere. Okay. Mapansin nyo ano ibig sabihin ng negative dito? Yung actual current is flowing this way. Okay? So, ino-oppose nyo yung direction na binigay mo. Okay. Pinangalan mo sa kanyang direction. Kasi dito, pag binigyan kayo ng circuits, kayo mag-a-assign ng mga voltage, ng direction ng mga current, at yung mga terminals, kayo gagawa na. Sa chapter 2, sa libro nyo, medyo binibaby pa kayo dyan kasi bibigyan niya kayo ng mga directions ng mga current. Okay? Okay. So, yan. That's an example. Next, that would be here. Okay. Ito ay kung maalala niyo mula sa unang unang meeting natin, ito ay sources, current sources ito. Okay. So, wala lang. Current pa rin sila. So, lahat ng incoming sa node, lalagay ko lang. Lahat ng outgoing, lalagay ko lang din. So, lahat ng incoming would be 2 plus 1 plus I must be equal to 0. Kasi wala naman papalabas na dinrowing, di ba? O walang papalabas na dinrowing. So, lahat ay incoming. Therefore, I have 3 plus I must be 0. Then, I must be negative 3 amperes. Okay, so si I mo daw ay papaganon actually. So, 3 amperes. Makes sense naman, di ba, na syempre pag sinuplayan mo dito ng 2, sinuplayan mo ng 1, dapat lalabas siya dun sa kabila. Maging 3 siya. Okay? Okay. So, yan. So, that's for KCL. Medyo madali pa naman, di ba? Then, recall, yung KVL naman, Kirchhoff's voltage law. Ito, sinusunod ko na lang yung ano niya, yung preference ko ay sinusunod ko yung solve sa kanya by adding them all. Okay, so algebraic sum down ng voltages around any closed path must be 0. Okay, so yung closed path, ikaw bahala pumili kung clockwise ba o counterclockwise. Basta isasum mo sila and dapat 0. Okay? Okay. So by convention, pag yung direction mo is entering the positive terminal, okay, so wari ang pinili kong direction dito would be clockwise. Okay? So, yung direction ko for this side is this one. On this side, pa ganun. Okay, so dito sa right side mo, sa V2, papasok ako sa plus. So, plus din yung sign ng V2 ko. Tapos sa V1, papasok ako sa negative. So, negative yung V1 ko. Okay, so KVL, sum ko lang daw silang lahat. Equal to 0. Okay, di ba? Dali. So, negative V1, V2, 0. Okay, so what does this imply? V1 must be equal to V2. Okay. Tingnan nyo. Mahalaga tong circuit na to dahil pag nag-parallel ka ng source, parallel to ng source, di ba? So this is a source, this is a source. Pa-square lang siya ngayon, pero kung nyari isipin nyo siyang source siya, ganito mangyayari. Dapat equal yung voltages mo. Pag hindi equal yan, ang mangyayari, sabihin natin V1 is 3 volts, V2 is 9 volts. Okay, so ito ay 9 volts and this one is 3 volts. Anong naaalala natin mula sa chapter 1? Kapag may wire ka, anong potential difference dapat? V is equal to 0. Okay, so kung in this case, nakakabit siya sa 9 volts, and nakakabit siya sa 3 volts. Ito ay 3 volts. Sinasabi niya dito, 3 volts siya. 9 volts dito. So, pag kinuha mo yung difference nito, that would be 6 volts. It violates yung sinabi natin na rule for wires. Na dapat yung wire mo, dapat 0 yung potential difference niya. Okay? So, mangyayari dyan, puputok yung circuit mo kasi itatry nung wire mo, i-dissipate yung heat. Okay? Kaya nagkakasunog, ganun. Kasi umiinit yung wire, naluluto yung rubber outside it, tapos papatak siya somewhere, so kakasunog-sunog na. Okay? Okay. So that's one example. Paano kapag naka-series sila? Try natin mag-series yan. Okay. So what would I do? Magandang loop dito, counterclockwise na lang. Counterclockwise. Kasi dalawa yung tatamaan kong positive. So, dalawa yung positive terms. Wala lang, preference lang. Pwede mo naman balik pa rin. So, by KVL, I have 1.5 plus 1.5 minus V. Itong terminal ko sa kabila. Kasi sa negative ako pumasok. Therefore, that is all equal to 0. And the voltage is 3 volts. Okay? Okay. So, ayan. So pag gusto mong pataasin yung voltage ng system mo, you just have to make your sources in series with each other. Okay, sa inyo mga ginagawa sa laruan, yung mga may apat na double A batteries para mapataas yung voltage nung laruan mo para mapagana siya. So naka-series yung mga yan. Okay? Mukha lang sila naka-parallel pero hindi sila parallel. Kaya din sila nakabaliktad, baliktad, baliktad. Diba? Naka-up, may positive terminal, tapos nakababa dun sa kabila. Okay, anyway, so this is safe. Yes, this is safe. So, okay lang magkamali na ma-series mo sila, yung mga voltages. Pero yung mga ma-parallel mo, that would be a problem. Okay, so yung mga iba sa inyo nakabili na ng mga bagay-bagay kasi sila ay leaders. Again, di ko pa na-finalize yung mga groupings. So kung testingin niyo testingin niyo yung mga binili nyo, make sure na wala kayong mapaparallel na source. Okay? Okay. Okay. Next, try tayo ng isang circuit. So, meron tayong dalawang resistor circuit. So, yung isang resistor, parang kaya naman natin agad yun, di ba? Plus V minus. Yung isang resistor, madali lang to. Mara, may voltage V ka dyan, may resistance R ka. Madali mo mahanap yung current kasi alam mo na V is equal to R. Okay? And yung I mo, paikot lang naman siya. Hindi siya dadagdag, hindi siya babawas. It's just I. Okay? Kasi lahat ng papasok dito sa terminal ng resistor mo must come out, and that coming out pupunta sa source mo, and so on and so forth. Ito lang yung equation mo. So, start na agad tayo sa dalawang resistor. Okay. So, engineering ano to, no? Kaya siya tinawag na voltage divider. It's that kung gusto mo i-manipulate yung voltage mo to a lower voltage, you do a voltage division. Okay, so how you do that is by putting resistors together. Okay, in series. So, let's try. Okay. Start tayo by naming the things that we know. Okay. So, V naught must be equal to negative V. Okay, kuha. Bakit ganun? Kasi sa terminals ng source mo, nakabaliktad sila with respect to your measurement. Yung measurement mo, nakalagay yung positive terminal mo dun sa puwet ng baterya, sa negative nun. So, kapag ginawa mo yun, you have a negative voltage. Okay? And then, next would be V1. I know V1 to be I1. So, yung I ko guys, ganito lang muna kasi, ayan, reminiscent ng 112 yung maliit na I. So, let's not talk about 112. Okay. And then V2 must be equal to I2. And then R2. Simple enough. Okay? And then I know by, hindi pala, maling term yung I know. Let's try using, hindi pala I know dapat. So, let's try using KCL. By KCL. Okay, so by KCL, what do I find? So, si author, naglagay siya ng tatlong nodes. So, you can do that, no? You can do a node in the middle of a wire. That's okay. You just have to be consistent again. Okay. So, sa unang node, this tells me that I0 is going in. And then the one that is going out is I1. And then here on the second node, I know that I1 is going in and I2 is going out. Then for the last node, I know I2 is going in and going out is I0. Okay, so I0 is equal to I1, I1 is equal to I2, I2 is equal to I0. So therefore, I0 must be equal to I1 must be equal to I2. And let's just denote them by a big capital I. Okay, para hindi tayo mapagod in life. Okay, next would be doing KVL. KVL. Sige. Okay, so ikot tayo. It's nice to do that clockwise na lang para lahat ng tatamaan ko would be positive terminals. Okay, so si V0, positive yung tatamaan ko. Si V1, positive yung tatamaan ko. Si V2, positive din. Therefore, things are easy for me. VL, V0 plus V1 plus V2 must all be equal to 0. Tama. V0, V1, V2. But, I know V0, sinulat na natin siya. That would be negative V. So, negative V plus V1 plus V2. Okay, sulat ko na lang na V must be equal to V1 plus V2. Tama ba? Lipat ko lang sa kabila. Hindi ko na sulat. Okay. Ganyan na lang, di ba? Mas madali. Okay. So, what's next? Anong kailangan natin gawin? Ang next ay, okay, so, I could change V1 and V2 here by doing this. I1, R1 plus I2, R2. And then I know na sinulat ko si I1 and I2 na something that's I na lang para mapadali ang buhay natin. So I times R1 plus I2. Factor out lang. Okay? Kasi parehas lang naman si I1 at I2. Okay, so I know V, I know R. Therefore, I can just write this down as V over R1 plus R2. Okay. And then, tapos na tayo. Makukuha mo na si V1 at V2. So, ayun lang naman kailangan mo hanapin para ma-solve yung system mo. V1 must be equal to I times R1. Simple as that. And this is R1 plus R2 times V. Okay, so this is V1. Similarly, for V2, I would have R2, R1 plus R2. Okay. So ito ang tinatawag na voltage divider mo. Okay. So maganda dito is that this node, okay, kuwari meron kang, ito yung circuit mo, then kumabit ka ng wire dito, So pag kinabitan mo to, ang mangyayari, you would get 5 volts, di ba? Kasi ang potential difference ito, 5 volts. Okay? Kasi wire lang din to, and this wire is nakakabit mo sa source mo, and yung source mo is 5 volts, therefore, kapag kumabit ka sa kabilang wire, 5 volts pa rin. Okay? And then, kumabit ka dito, ang makukuha mo na is this one. Okay? R2 plus R2 over R1 plus R2 V. Okay? Ba't 5? Ba't may 5 dun? Okay. Kuwari lang 5 volts yun, guys. Pero, hindi ko alam ba't may 5 yun. Sorry. Okay. So, ayan. So, if you want to, gusto mo kalahatiin yung voltage mo, what do? Pwede mong gawing R1 is equal to R2. So, yung factor mo magiging R2. R2 plus R2. Okay? Magiging R2 over 2, R2. Okay. Cancel. So, you get half the voltage. Okay. That's a voltage divider. Of course, you can continue continue adding more resistors. So, meron tayong N voltage divider and voltage sige, kaya ko mag-spell. Okay, voltage divider. Okay guys, gets. Divider. Okay, so basically, you have N resistors. You connect them in series, then meron kang continuously dividing circuit. Okay? So, paano natin papasimplihin yung buhay natin kapag meron tayong sandamakmak na resistor? Um, one would be, pag nakaseries sila, yung effective resistance ng nakaseries mong mga resistors would be just the sum of them. Okay? So, the sum ng mga resistors. Kunyari, meron kang 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1 ohm, 2 ohms, 3 ohms. Okay. So, you can actually redraw this. You can redraw this into something more simple. And this resistor would be just the sum of these small ones. Okay, 3 plus 2 plus 1. So that's 6 ohms. Okay, so gagawin mo to kung kailangan mo lang yung nodes dito at yung nodes dito. Okay? Or hindi mo alam yung current sa kanila. Pwede mong gamitin to. Okay? So ipapakita ko kanina, papakita ko mamaya kung paano natin siya. Want to try. Okay? So you simplify circuits using this. Another one. Okay, so next would be current divider. So basically, ganito rin. But in terms of current na. Okay? Okay. Okay, let's start with what we easily know. V1 must be equal to I1, R1, and V2 must be equal to I2, R2. Okay. Medyo merong shortcut na pag nag-designate ka ng kuwari, pag may wire ka, may resistor, nag-designate ka kunyari ng current na pag ganito, ay something current na ganyan, it would imply that you have chosen the terminal plus here and minus here. Okay? Ayun yung medyo may agad yun, may assumption. Ayan, assumption yung hanap ng word. Okay? So, ayan. Pansinin nyo na kapag pinili nung libro, napapaganon yung I0, so yung plus nandun, yung minus nandito. Okay? So, we have that. Ano pa ba alam natin dito? Okay, parang wala na, no? So, we can proceed to KCL and KVL. Okay, so first thing to do is to write down the things that you know. Meron pa pala. Ang alam ko would be I, not I0, sorry. Must be equal to negative I. Okay? Kasi wala nang kapupuntahan si I, kundi salubungin si I0. Therefore, you have this relation. Okay? KCL. Start with KCL. So lahat ay outgoing in this node. Okay? So ayun yung sinulat ng author. So you can be absurd, no? Like this, you can be absurd na lahat papalabas dun sa node. You just have to be consistent. Okay? So 0 must be equal to, lahat ay outgoing, I0 plus I1 plus I2. Okay? And then I know I0 to be negative I. Negative I plus I1, I2. And then I have I to be the combination of I1 plus I2. Diba? Ganun lang. So, consistent ka naman. So, lalabas pa rin yung mga kailangan lumabas na sagot. Okay, makes sense naman na yung I1 na hahati siya into I1 and then I2 yung source mo. Alright, then proceeding. Sir, what do you mean by? So, okay, may tanong tayo. Sir, what do you mean by being consistent sa mga nodes and direction? So, being consistent is that doing that for all cases sa system mo. Okay? Okay, continuing. Let's try KVL. Tapos na tayo sa KCL. KVL. Then, unang loop ko. So, kahit ano na piliin ko ngayon, I would just have to go clockwise. So, I have negative V naught. Okay, my negative V naught. And then, ay, tama, negative V naught must be plus V1 must be equal to 0. 0. And then the other side would be this one. So, negative V1 must be equal to, plus V2 equal to 0. Okay. This just implies yung kanina nating ginagawa na these are V1 must be equal to V0, V2 must be equal to V1. Okay? So basically, lahat ng potential difference mo, this part, this part, this part, this part, this part, this part, pare-parehas. Okay? V1, V2, V0. Okay? What would be next? Okay. Ang next would be, gamitin ko ito. Gamitin ko ito. Okay, so I can write this down as V1 must be equal to I over R1 plus V2 R2. Okay, so since V1 is equal to V2, V1 is equal to V0, V0 must then be equal to V2 also. Though, syempre, pwede ko na isulat to as some V. Okay? So, I have this, then I could write them down as 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. Okay, so I have this I. Therefore, what's next for me? Next sa akin ay getting V. Okay, getting V. So, mas maganda na isulat ko siya in terms of V. V must be equal to I over 1 R1 plus 1 over R2. Yes, this is algebra. So, ito ay magiging R1, R2, R1 plus R2. Ay, kuha. So, multiply mo lang to. Tapos cross mo. Okay, gets naman yan. Tapos reciprocal. Okay, kuha naman yun. Okay, bakit ko to ginamit? Kasi I could easily get I1. So, I1 must be equal to V over R1. And this is just R2 over R1 plus R2I. Then I2, similarly, V over R2. R1 na lang yung matitira. R1 plus R2I. Okay? So, plug in lang to. Ito, pinlug in ko lang to dito. Let's cancel numerator and denominator. Okay. So, very similar kanina sa ginagawa natin. Very similar doon sa voltage divider. Okay. So, tingnan natin to. Ano bang intuition behind this? Okay. So, yung current natin, guys, electricity, tas gusto niya sa path of least resistance. Okay? So, kunyari, R1 is less than R2. You'd see that, okay, tingnan nyo maigi dito. So, yung numerator nila, parehas lang. Ay, denominator pala. Okay, denominator nila, same lang, di ba? Yung I1 at I2, same lang yung denominator nila. So, nagkakatalo na lang sa kung ano man nasa numerator. Okay, since R2 is greater than R1, you'd see that I1 is larger. Okay, kasi nandun si R2, di ba? Okay, balik tayo sa circuit natin. Okay. So, pag mas malaki si R2, mas malaki si I1. Okay? Mas malaki si R2 kay R1, mas malaki yung I1. And that's sanity check sa mga ginagawa natin. Current likes to go dun sa kung saan mas mababa yung resistance. So, mas maraming current dumadaloy dito kasi mas maliit si R1. Okay? So, ano lang, pang-check lang din sa mga ginagawa nyo. Kung tingin nyo, gusto nyo i-double check yung ginawa nyo, dapat masasatisfy nyo yun. Okay? Okay. So, we have now resistors in parallel. Kapag nakaparallel yung mga resistor mo, hassle siya i-solve. Okay, so yung total resistance mo would be 1 over R1. Ito ginagawa ko siya kasi sanay ako dito. At mas madali siyang gawin sa calculator, sa scientific calculator. Tapos lalagyan mo ng inverse sa taas. Diba? Smart. Okay. Kasi usually nakakalimutan kong gawin na sa calculator nyo kasi pwede nyo isulat to as is. The type nyo 1 over x must be equal to sa mga values nyo. Kuwari meron kayong tatlong resistors. May scientific calculator kayo kung gusto nyo i-try. And ito type nyo literally. Tapos shift plus solve. Shift solve. Tapos may lalagay sa may magpo-prompt sa screen niyo na x. Yes, equal niyo lang. Pindutin niyo equal. I-solve niya. Okay? So matagal matagal to. Matagal 'yang mag-solve. Pero ayan, kung di niyo pa alam yung shift solve sa calculator niyo, kung may scientific calculator niyo kayo, this is very useful lalo na pag face to face. Okay. So, sa face-to-face, kung sa 111, naalala ko nung undergrad ako, Sir Domingo, pinayagan niya ako mag-calculator sa 111. Ha! Hindi niya alam, pwede akong mag-solve ng mga matrix sa calculator. So, ayun, andaya ako. Pinayagan niya ako magagawa ko. So, pwede rin kayo mag-solve ng matrix sa lalo na kung maganda-ganda yung calculator niya. Meron ako naging estudyante sa Diliman. Yung calculator niya, Texas Instruments. So, yung Texas Instruments ay yung usual na ginagamit na equipment para sa mga calculating machines sa NASA, sa mga Apollo missions. Okay. Sa mga space shuttle missions nila. Wala lang. Yammern. Okay. May problema tayo ngayon. So, kanina simple-simple na mga ginagawa natin bilang ganito. Okay, so let's try to solve things. Whew! Medyo mahaba-haba. Okay. Ayan, sabi ko sa inyo, may implication yung pagde-denote nyo ng current. So, nag-denote siya ng I5 na pababa. Therefore, yung nodes ng I5, ng V5 niya would be pointed like this. Okay. Which is nice kasi, joke lang, di siya nice. Di siya nice. Actually, hindi siya nice. Kasi non-intuitive yung daloy ng current. Pero, kanya-kanya. Each to his own, her own. Okay, let's start with what we know. V5 must be equal to V. Then V4 must be equal to I4, I4, R4, V3 must be equal to I3, R3. V2 must be equal to I2, R2, V1 must be equal to I1. Okay. Ano kaya natin isolve natin? What you want to do in this case kapag ganito dumadami na yung mga resistor is to try to simplify things. Okay? So first, I know R3 and R4 to be in series. So therefore, wait. Huwag muna pala ako mag-start dun. Simulan ko muna sa mga obvious na mga bagay. So I3 must be equal to I4. Okay? Kasi nasa isang line lang sila. So lahat ng papasok sa number 3, lumalabas din. So that's I4. Okay, and then this guys, I1 must be the negative of I5. And then by KCL, ito yung node na mahalaga, si number 2. Kasi yung ibang nodes parang sayang effort. Okay, so I have I1 and I2 incoming. Incoming. And then, papalabas si I3. So, okay guys, kayo yung bahala kung anong gusto nyong paraan. So, ito yung ginagawa ko. So, sanay ako dun. Hindi ko kayo mamali kung gusto nyo yung other way around. Okay, next would be KVL. KVL. Okay, gawa ko ng dalawang loop. So, here and here. Okay? So, pag nag-loop ako dito, bakit naman? Okay, sige. Nagawa ko na eh. So, dalawang negative sign yung makukuha ko kasi papasok ako dito. So, negative, negative, positive, then negative. So, by KVL, dalawang negative ko, which is negative V5 plus V1 minus V2, 0. Double check natin. V1, positive. V2 is negative. Then, I would go, nice. Positive lahat. Clockwise again. So, positive lahat ng unang terminal na dadaanan ko. So, they're all positive. V2, V3, plus V4. Okay, ang daming equations. Usually, you don't need them all. Pero sila yung mga arsenal mo into solving things. So, wag ka malula agad na marami kang sinusulat na. Pwede mo i-clear up yung mind mo kung ano lang yung talagang kailangan mo. Okay? So, for this case, ang naisip ko agad is to simplify the circuit. So, magde-denote ako ng mga bagay-bagay. R3, 4. Okay, may tanong tayo. Kung clockwise po yung isa, clockwise na rin lahat. Not necessarily, pwede kong baliktarin. Okay? Pwede ko i-counterclockwise ito. Tapos clockwise yung kabila. Okay, so yung deciding factor ko is kung gaano karaming negative sign yung isulat ko. Okay, kasi sa mga pag na-trauma na kayo sa physics, may mga negative sign na lumilipad minsan kaya takot tayo sa negative sign. So you don't want negative sign. Ayan, medyo may trauma ako sa negative sign kasi yung sa thesis ko nung masters, may isang libro na ako ng solution tapos sa start ng solution ko may isang negative na kumawala. So I have to rewrite the whole book of a solution again. Anyway, moving forward. I would write R34 to denote the combination of R3 and 4. So, series lang naman sila. So, i-add ko lang. Okay? Then, my circuit would look like Sir, why po I1 is equal to negative I5? Okay. Kuwari nag-node tayo dito. So, lahat ay outgoing. So, 0 sa incoming. I1 must be equal to, ay, joke. Plus I5. Okay, therefore, I could write this down as I1 be equal to negative I5. I5. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Dito yung node na yun. Nodes po yung numbers. Yes, you can do that. Yes, node number 1, node number 2. Pero sabi ko nga, pwede kayo mag-node sa weirdly positioned, weird positions. Pwede kayo mag-node dito. Pwede kayo mag-node dito. Pero ayan, nag-designate siya ng 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the nodes. Okay? Okay, now I denote R3, 4 to be like this kasi naka-series it R3 and R4. Then my circuit would look like this. Plus, minus. Ito na yung R3, 4. Ito ay R2. Ito ay R1. Okay? So that's your circuit. And a simplified circuit ko for now. I could further simplify this. Kasi si R2 ay parallel with R3 and 4. I could write down R2 parallel with 3, 4. Then this would become 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3, 4. Okay? Then inverse. Okay, then anong itsura ng Anong itsura na ng circuit ko? Ganito na siya. Okay. Okay. And this is R2 parallel with 3, 4. And this is R1. I could further simplify them. Series na silang dalawa. I could do this. And then I just call this RT, total RT. Okay, so RT would become R1 plus R2 parallel with 3 and 4. Okay? Okay. Now, alam ko na this is V. And the one that is flowing outside of V is I1. Tama ba? Okay? So, yung nagpo-flow out of V would be I1. Or kung gusto mong gamitin yung I5, pwede mo naman gamitin. Pero ayoko sa kanya. Pwede mo gamitin sa I5 na. Basically, you have this relation lang naman. Okay? Because negative the I1. So, I will use I1. Okay, I1. Simple enough, I1 would be V over RT. And explicitly, this would become what is RT? Ang RT mo would be, so lagay natin sila lahat sa parenthesis, then explicitly 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3 plus R4. Okay? Then inverse ito. Tama. Naalala nyo pa yung mga pinagsubstitute natin. Okay, and then this is T. Sa libro nyo, sinimplify niya pa to. Nagpakapagod lang siya. So basically, multiply. Sa libro nyo, ganito itsura. Let's go algebra powers. R2, R3, that's R4, then R2, 3, 4, And then naka-inverse. Pagod, di ba? Pinagod mo na sarili mo. Tapos ang dami mo pang ipa-plug in. At least dito sa unang ginawa mo, yung 4 lang na values. So, ito ay... Gets nyo na yan, guys. Gets nyo na yan. Basta mahaba yung sagot. Okay? Magiging numerator niya, mentalin ko na lang. Pagod na ako magsulat. So, then, R1, R2, R3, R4. Okay, plus R2, R3. Minental ko na. 4. Yan yung itsura niya. Okay. Di ba ang hassle? Kasi pag kinalculator mo siya, ilang beses ka magpa-plugin ng R2? 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 beses. Sa R3, 3 beses ka rin pa-plugin. Sa R4, 3 beses ka rin pa-plugin. Sa R1, ito na lang. So, ito gamitin natin. Okay. Now you know I1. What's next would be... Okay, balik tayo sa original circuit natin. Nasolve na natin si I1. Then, si V1 masosolve mo agad immediately. Okay, si V1 would be this guy. Solve pa ba natin? Okay, so si V1 masosolve mo immediately after solving I1. Tama? Kasi this, you know R1. Then you just multiply that to I1, you get V1. And then from the KVL, alam mo si V5, which is yung source mo. Then V1, alam mo rin. Tama? You know V1. Then you definitely can know V2 immediately after that. Okay? So after solving for V2, makukuha mo si I2 agad-agad. Okay? Kasi divide mo lang yan by R2 para makuha si I2. Okay? Once you solve for I2, may dalawa ka ng current na alam. So you can use the KCL to find the other current, which is I3. Ay, alam natin si I1, yung unang sunod natin. I2 would sprout from V2. Then I3 would just be the sum of that 2. So hindi ko na isosolve dahil napakahaba ng solution. Nasa libro siya. Okay, pero ito yung flow nung paano mo siya isosolve. Kasi sa exam, di naman ganito usually. Usually may values ng voltages and currents. Okay? Okay, so I3, after knowing I3, yung I3 mo ay nagpo-flow dito sa both R4 and R3 mo. So therefore, you can easily get V3 then V4. Okay? Then you solve you have solved the system. Kasi si I3 at I4 same lang naman. Okay? So ganun siya, ganun yung flow. So from I1, masasolve mo na sila consequently. Okay. Now, let's try another one. So this is all for chapter 2. Solve lang kayo ng solve ng circuits. Okay. Again, pansinin nyo dito, si I0, pababa siya. Diba? Weird siya kasi, weird si I0 at I1 kasi they are sprouting out of the node here. Pero ito kasi yung consequence ng pag-set mo kay V0, yung terminal mo, pinantay mo dun sa terminals ng battery mo or ng source. Okay, so paano pag dalawang source? Ganun pa rin. You just have to write down first the things you know. Then V1 would be I1, R1, V2 would be I2, R2, and then I3 must be equal to negative I. Okay? Kasi kung kukunin mo yung node dito, lahat dito ay incoming, which is masakit braso ko, sorry guys. Wait lang. Nag-aano na siya. Namamanhid na. Yung node dito would be incoming. Everything is incoming. So, I3 plus I must be equal to 0. Then you lipat mo yung I. So, we have this. Okay, and then what else? The other one, I1 must be equal to the negative of I0. Okay. So, hindi tayo pwede mag-denote ng gamitin yung I kasi gamit na siya. At si V gamit na rin siya. Anyway, let's continue by KCL, as usual. KCL. Isa lang yung importanteng KCL dito, it would be this node. Okay? So, yung kabilang node, ganun lang din. Okay? Itong symbol na to is ground. Hindi pa siya useful for now, but in chapter 3, we would see the power of the ground. So, favorite ko yan si ground. Okay, by KCL, dito yung gagawin ko. So, pumapasok si I1. Then, lumalabas would be I2 plus I3. But I know that I2 and pasimplify ko si I3 pala. Sorry, I2 sinasabi ko. I3 would become negative I kasi with this relation. Okay? So, sulat din natin to. Parang tayo malito. And then, by KVL, okay, dalawang loop ako. Okay, I like clockwise here. And then, okay, walang choice. Kahit anong piliin ko. Tig-isa sila. Anyway, clockwise there gives me negative V0. V0, I mean. Then, oops, sorry, gumalaw. V0, then positive V1, positive V2 kasi tatamaan ko yung positive terminals nila. Must be equal to 0. Then the other loop would be negative V2, then positive V3. Negative V2, positive V3. Okay, this tells us that V3 must be equal to V2. And then I could write this down as, palitan ko si V0 ng V. Kasi V is equal to V0. Then I would have V must be equal to V2 plus V3. Okay? Okay. And then, I'd use this. Gamitin ko tong si equation na ito to solve for the other guys. So, I2 times R2 plus I3, R3. Okay. So, I know I3 would be, oops, may question. Sir, why hindi po negative V0 plus V1 plus V2? Ito? Ayun naman siya, negative V0 plus V2 plus V3. Tapos, lipat ko sa kabila. Then, I would use the value of V0, which is V. So, ito yung lumabas.
Sir, but hindi po included yung V1.
Ay! Oo nga, mali. V1 and V2 yung sinusulat ko. Tama. Very good. Sino yung sumagot?
De La Cruz po.
Okay, De La Cruz.
Sir, paano ako, sir, yung nag-chat? Yung sabi ko yung...
Sige.
Ako rin, sir, nag-chat.
Okay, pag i-correct nyo ako, may plus points. Okay. Sorry. Hindi ko nakita. Dami kasing numbers, nakakalita. So, V1 ito, tas V2. Tama ba? Kasi ayun yung kasama niya. V1, V2. Okay, and then this is V1. Okay, palitan ko lang mga bagay-bagay. So, ayun pa rin yung gagawin ko. Okay, and then si I1, I could replace that with this. Si I1 kasi pwede mo siya isulat in I2, in terms of I2. So, I would have I2, R2, plus I2 minus I, R1. Okay. So, in terms of I2 na lahat, I know R2, and then I know I, given, R1 is given, V is given. Therefore, I could isolate I2 to solve for this equation. So, this is just V, I2, R1 plus R2. Okay, kasi si R2 may I2, si I2 may R1. So, sila magsasama. And then I have an extra term which is IR1. And then I2 must be, okay, V plus I R1 all over R1 plus R2. Okay? Consequently, masolve ko agad si I1 kasi si I1 ay equal sa I2 minus I. Therefore, this is just V plus I R1 over R1 plus R2 minus I. Okay? Plug and play lang yun. And then, oops, sorry. And then, that's it. Nakuha mo na lahat ng current, then makukuha mo na lahat ng voltages, which is just multiplying the currents with the resistances. So, hindi na natin gagawin kasi lalagay mo lang naman yung R1 dun sa I1, lalagay mo lang naman yung R2 dun sa I2, then you would get V1 and V2. Then you'd solve mo na yung system. Okay? So, ano ba itsura ng V2? Okay. Hindi naman din maganda itsura ng V2. Okay. So, patapos na tayo. Mamimigay pa ako ng plus na. So, yung problem set nyo, mga 10 points yan kada tanong. So, magbibigay akong plus 5 ngayon. Solve nyo to. Kung sino ang unang makasolve, may plus 5 siya. Solve nyo yung, wait lang, dito pala akong bibigay ng tanong. Solve nyo yung power dissipated by the R resistor. I give you 5 minutes. Kung may makasolve, may plus 5 siya. Itong power dissipated. Tama yung spelling. Dissipated. Dissipated. 5 minutes. Magre-raise ng hand kung sinong makasagot agad. 5 points agad. Kalahati ng problem set dito. Kailangan may units yung sagot. Hindi required magsagot. Hindi required magsagot. Ano lang to? Bonus lang. Manggugulo ako. Magkukwento ako. Nagpa-booster ako kanina, di ba? Tapos merong lalaki. Sumisingit sa pila. Asim na mukha, nakakainis. Tapos uubo-ubo pa. Ano ba yun? Nakakaloka. Atat na atat siya. Tapos ang funny kasi, so may pila kasi dito. Tapos nung pinatayo niya, tumakbo pa siya paharap. So yun, nasa harapan na siya. Tapos hindi pala siya nagpabakuna sa Maynila. So in-screening pa siya. Napunta ulit siya sa likod. Wala lang. Mga adventures ko lang kanina. Two minutes. May wala pa ba nakakasagot? You don't have to solve for everything. Kailangan mag-raise hand nung nakasagot. Kung may makakasagot. Surf fraction po ba yung sagot? Secret. So, pag alam mo na yung sagot, you can raise hand para tatawagin kita. Okay lang po ba try? Oh, mag-raise hand lang kayo kung gusto niyo mag-try. Okay, may nag-raise hand na. Dalawa. Okay. So, nagbaba yung isa. Okay. Ang unang-unang naka-raise ay si Vidal. So, Vidal, message me your answer. Yung private, wag yung wag naka-everyone. Okay. Mukhang hindi tama si Vidal. Okay, next. Next one. Okay, baba ng kamay, Vidal. Next would be si Lance. Message me your answer. Okay, very good. May nakatama na. Plus 5 si Lance. Okay. Okay, sige. Solve natin para for the peace of mind ng isang kalahatan. So, ang gagawin ko would be, de-denote muna ako ng direction ng currents. Okay. Siyempre, pag ganito din dito. Yan. Pag ganito. And another one. Okay. I would call this I total. Then I1, I2, and then I3, I4. Okay. Okay. So, hindi ako nag-denote ng current dito kasi alam ko na walang current na dadaloy dyan because walang potential difference. Dahil ayan ay wire lang. Walang wire din. Wire lang yan. So, potential difference is 0, therefore current is 0. So, kung gagawin nyo yung KCL, yes, may makukuha kang current na papaganito and equal siya dun sa papaganon. So, mag-0 yan. Okay. Next, I would draw this into a simpler form. Mapansin nyo, burahin natin itong extra natin dito. Mapansin nyo, sabi ko nga, this is a wire. Potential difference is 0. Therefore, these two resistors ay itong 1 ohm and 2 ohm resistor mo is supplied by a a similar voltage, a same voltage. Therefore, those two are in parallel. Okay, so therefore, I could write, okay, na sa taas. Then, these two are in parallel. Okay, kakabit ko dun sa kabilang. Put no ano, then may ground ako. And then, ito ay pwede ko nang pagsamahin into 1. So, ito ay paganyan na lang. So, ganito. Okay? And then, what would be the value of this? So, this is R1 2. R parallel 2. So, R1 parallel with 2. That is equal to 1 over 1 plus 1 over 2. Inverse, this is 3 halves. 3 halves, reciprocal nun, 2/3. Okay, so this is 2/3. Sulatan ko na lang. I would write this down 2/3. 2/3. Then this one is 2. This is 4. Okay, another one. Parallel ulit sila. Therefore, I could simplify my circuit to be like this. This. The right hand here stays the same. And ano yung effective resistance nito? So, R3. 3 pangalan yun. 3 parallel with 4. That would be 1/2 plus 1/4. Okay, so that's 2 over 4. 2 plus 1, 3. 3 over 4, 4/3. 4/3. Okay? 4/3 ang kapangyarihan mo. Okay, and then now I can combine those two to be a single one. So, ito ay ganyan. 6/3. Tama? Add mo lang sila. And this is just 2. 2 ohms. Tapos, ang voltage ko will be 3 volts. 3 volts. The current, therefore, is 3 halves. Current is 3 halves. Okay, what does that tell me? Yung 3 halves na yon ay yung I total. Yung dumadaloy papalabas nung hold dito, nung source mo. Okay. But actually, hindi ko na kailangan yan. Kailangan ko pa ba? Okay, so yung IT mo, ito, must be equal to yung dalawang currents mo. I3 and I4. Nalilito ko sa mga ginawa kong pangalan. I3, I4. And then, okay. Nakalimutan ko yung ginawa ko. Okay, so, hindi pala tayo dadaan sa path na ito. Okay. So, going back, ito ay yung dumadaloy na current dito would be IT. Tama ba? Okay. Then I would break down my current back to this. And similarly, IT pa rin yung dumadaloy dito. Okay? Okay. Now, take a careful look from here to here. Pansin mo yung potential difference for the 4/3 na combined resistor natin is actually the same potential difference na matatanggap ni 2 at ni 4 dahil connected sila ng wire. Okay? Therefore, knowing the voltage here, gives me the answer. And knowing the voltage, what is that voltage? V must be equal to 3/2 times yung combined voltage mo, 4/3. So that gives me 2 volts. So 2 volts yung nararamdaman nito at nito. Okay? Okay. So therefore, the power P must be equal to V squared over R. Therefore, this is 4 over 2. Kasi 2 squared, 4. So this is 2 watts. 2 watts ang sagot. Very good, Lance. Okay. So hindi ko na sinolve lahat ng problem. Okay? Tapos nag-shortcut na rin ako ng isang way kasi ang isang way, 'di ba, kailangan makuha yung I and R para makuha yung power. Pero naisip ko, pwede naman pala yung voltage. Kasi either way, makuha ko yung voltage dito, makuha ko yung voltage dito, it would be the same. So voltage na lang, mas madali. Okay, so that's it for today. Yung asynchronous topic would be dependent voltage and current sources. Basahin nyo lang. Basically, same pa rin yung gagawin nyo. Ang nangyayari lang pag merong dependent voltage and current, kuwari meron kang ganito, kuwari lagay mo siya I2. So ito ay voltage source kunyari. Okay? Kuwari yan. V is equal to I to X. Parang ganyan siya. Okay? So, kuwari nakakabit siya sa resistor. Meron kang I1, I2, going down. So, nakadepende lang yung voltage mo dun sa isang part ng circuit mo. Okay. So, basically, ganun pa rin. Ang voltage niya, ito. Pa-plug in mo lang siya sa mga alam mong Okay? Sir, bakit po lumalabas may tanong, sorry. Bakit po lumalabas sa positive terminal yung source, positive terminal ng source, yung total I? Nag-define ako ng total current. Ito total current. Papalabas siya sa positive terminal. Okay? Ayun yung usual convention. Lumalabas yung positive yung current sa positive terminal ng source mo. Okay. So that's it for today. Magko-collect ako ng attendance. May bonus pa tayo. Okay. So kung may tanong, send nyo pa rin yung message nyo habang nagsusulat ako ng mga attendance. Okay, stop recording.